how we are evolving in the state of Arizona. Breaking news as we come on the air today, there has been a massive shatter in Midtown. That's right. A full blown explosion at the Midtown BHO facility. Authorities say the crew was working with a closed loop system, but apparently forgot to close the loop on common sense. Police are now warning that BHO has officially gone from mid to deadly. This isn't just a danger to your lungs, it's a threat to your lease agreement. And in related news, reports say these fellows are now looking into a bubble tech hash setup. Nothing says lesson learned like switching to solventless with your eyebrows still intact. So remember, folks, stay safe, stay solventless. And this is a PSA from your Phoenix Hash Network. Now back to your regularly scheduled dabs. Okay, there we go. That was my little attempt at a fun news story there. But for those of you hash heads out there that enjoy the solventless lifestyle, there are some great accounts on social media that have been making some funny AI videos uh, just in regards to processing cannabis extracts, kind of making fun of BHO and talking about different hash setups. So anyway, we'll have some fun segments like that more in the future. And today we're going to get in right into our guest. We have a special guest, friend of the show, Evan Burleson. He is the founder of ECM Solutions. And Evan is a seasoned operator in cannabis production, also in supply chain and genetic sourcing. He's been involved in helping brands scale and build out their quality assurance systems, helping ensure what's in the jar is actually what's promised. So without any more delays, we're going to jump right in, and we have a lot to talk about today. I'd like to welcome Evan Burleson to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Do the microphone about a fist from your talking there. And let's start with, before we get into some of these topics, just kind of start on the positives. Tell me what you love about this industry and what has drawn you into cannabis.
Oh, I mean, it's the people. I mean, it's ultimately the plant, getting to grow something so great that helps so many different people on so many different levels, from even people that just work in it to people that consume it.
And
And
how'd you find yourself starting in the cannabis industry, kind of customer facing or in the back end?
so I came in on the back end. I came from mining, so I really couldn't consume cannabis. I worked all over the world, like Australia and stuff, for BHB Battalion, a big giant company. So once I came into here, actually a buddy of mine from here got me into it. And so I started building a rise actually, and I was one of their first employees. Got in, built out their whole facility pretty much of their first 7 rooms and got that up and going. And that's how I latched on to this industry.
And so that's already starting with a big account there for our listeners that don't know. Arise is aeroponically grown cannabis, one of the largest facilities in Phoenix, probably when they opened at the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. We were by far one of the largest, pumping out a lot. And it was at the time a very hard thing to do because we had to perpetually harvest the rooms. So we were taking down tables at a time instead of whole rooms. So there was a whole bunch of restrictions to that. But that's as you do in cannabis, you just learn as you're going.
So you've worked with, let's kind of just a little rundown here. You guys have heard Evan on the show before. Very knowledgeable about everything from pricing strategies to cultivation and how revenue and maximizing, really just optimizing your path from seed to sale. But some of the customers you've worked with, some of the brands you've launched here in Arizona, everybody from Project Pax, Cannabis, VARS, Lit. You kind of facilitate when these people want to get started here in the state.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Usually I'm running the facility and then they come in. I mean, Lit was probably one of the largest ones I ran in the state. We had eight, pretty much 128 light rooms, the LEDs, faux LEDs. So we were cranking out about 500 to 700 pounds a week.
Wow, and shout out to friends and sponsors of the show, FOSE, that's FOHSE, the future of horticulture and science engineering. Evan, you also have a lot of experience working not only with the top, brand names, but behind the scenes when it comes to nutrients and like you just spoke to lights, FOS is regarded as kind of the Ferrari
Yep,
in the LED world.
100%.
Have most larger operations are now operating LED?
Yes, yeah, everybody's doing that big swing. Everybody's learning the science behind it, the ups and downs that they thought they would have with them. When I started growing under foes years ago, they were the light. People were pulling shade covers over on their indoors. They were doing some wild things because they didn't know how to drive the Ferrari. And so once you learn that, then that's when it all goes together with nutrients, with everything.
So there's a lot of variables involved when you kind of come to that top three, top five of environmental factors. You
Yeah.
just think of lighting as one thing, but lighting is its own world altogether.
Yes, yeah, it's just one of the small inputs that they all come together. You have environmental, you have your substrate, you have your nutrients themselves, how you're feeding, dosing systems. I mean, it boils down to so many different ways that you could peel this banana.
Well, I was going to say it boils down to a lot of ways that you could either make or lose revenue,
Yes.
and that's what you get paid to do.
Yes.
Is to come into these facilities and kind of identify what's working, what's not. And then obviously in Arizona, we have some of our own SOPs that anybody would, be smart to follow because we just have to know what works here in the desert.
Yep.
Every environmental grow is different, even indoors.
Yes.
People think just because you're indoor, you're cutting out a lot of factors.
And I mean, some of these facilities, some of them are 28 rooms that are all identical, and each room's completely different. It has same HVAC, same everything, but some other outliers, some things, one of the units doesn't work as well. I mean, even on indoor, there's so many variables. And then if you go cultivation to cultivation, you have different types of HVAC. I mean, all the way from mini splits to package units, and then your HVAC capacity, and with what you're doing. And the knowledge of how to manipulate all that and optimize it.
Yeah, to know what's changing,
Yeah.
that's where the experience comes in, and that's why it takes somebody like yourself that continues to get these types of accounts for your own business, EMC Solutions. So that's it, folks. This is what we're doing today, and when we come back, let's take a break here, listen to some of our sponsor messages, and when we come back, Evan Burleson, we're going to talk more about the brands on the shelf in Arizona, where we're headed as a state. And you're listening to the Verdant Exchange live on Money Radio, 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is Ference, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. Your Personal Bank is a financial concept that allows you to grow your money insured with guarantees, income tax-free, and highly liquid. Also, you have the potential to continue to earn interest on money you invest in other assets, purchase items, or pay expenses. How can you do this? First, invest in a high cash value policy to earn dividends. If you leave money in the policy, it'll grow like any investment, insured with guarantees and tax-free. Second, we establish a bank line of credit using the cash in the policy as collateral. When you access funds, you receive them from the bank. Typically, dividends earned are higher than the interest charged by the bank. You keep the difference. This is known as positive arbitrage. If you want to earn interest on money you spent or invest elsewhere, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. That's yourpersonalbank.com. Tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show Tuesdays at noon on Money Radio 1510 AM.
Arizona's future depends on a skilled workforce, and that's why students don't just learn at Pima JTED, they do. From healthcare to technology and construction to design, the JTED classroom model gets high school students ready for college, a career, or both, teaching them the skills Arizona employers need right now. Discover how Pima JTED students can support your business. Learn more at PimaJTED.org. That's PimaJTED.org. This message is sponsored by Potoff Private Philanthropy.
AmeriCorps isn't just about service. It's about building your future. AmeriCorps members gain skills that lead to long-term careers in healthcare, social work, teaching, disaster response, and other rewarding industries, developing as leaders today and strengthening the well-being of Arizona communities tomorrow. Whether you are re-entering the workforce or building your resume, AmeriCorps jumpstarts your career while you make a difference. Learn more at serve.az.gov. This message is sponsored by the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family.
Hello, I'm Shannon Estes, president of CMI Gold and Silver.
And I'm her husband, Johnny Estes, VP of CMI Gold and Silver.
My father, Bill Haynes, founded CMI Gold and Silver in Phoenix in 1973. We are the oldest precious metals bullion dealer in the U.S. As a family-operated business, we educate first, giving our clients the power to make informed buying and selling decisions.
We offer low prices because Bill instilled in us the desire to get the most bullion into the hands of the American people for the fewest paper dollars. Visit our website for an abundance of information at cmigs.com.
Although we may be new to you, my father was one of the pioneers of the bullion precious metals industry in the U.S. He began selling only 100-ounce silver bars in the early 1970s until Americans' right to own gold was restored in 1974.
Visit our website, cmigs.com, and get to know us or call and chat with one of our non-commissioned brokers at 602-234-2300. That's 602-234-2300, or visit cmigs.com.
Welcome back to the Verdant Exchange, live on Money Radio, 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. I'm your host, Michael Cassini, the founder of Cannabis Cactus Magazine. And today's special friend, guest in the studio, Evan Burleson, is the founder of EMC Solutions. They have supported a bunch of leading operators here in Arizona, brands that they've helped launch like VARS, Lit, Project Pax, Melt, Cannabis, and a bunch more. Evan's also a partner in Lead Farmer Social up in New York. And with both strong relationships, on the ground in the facility, and also in the C-suite, he is a trusted connector across the cannabis landscape. So today we're talking about delivering results. And welcome back here to the show, Evan.
What up?
We're going to stay on for the full hour today and kind of start with some of the questions we had. We've been talking a lot about white labeling on the show. A lot of good, a lot of bad that comes with that. So I wanted to talk about some of the positives. But can you explain white labeling and how it's become so common in our legal industry?
Well, realistically, that's some ways that you can break into the industry. There's a lot of it that's how you'll do it. I mean, even at Air Wellness, our facility that was Lit, we were just white labeling for them and a few other brands that were under the umbrella of AYR. And so that was a real good way just to break through with the genetic background and the clout that Lit had.
Yeah, so from a business perspective, white labeling can really help brands just scale faster, especially in a new market, where they may not be known. But what about the risks that come along with that? Is there a loss of control over your own quality or consumer trust?
Well, there can be, I guess. But then again, if you're a good white labeler, people are coming to you because you're doing a good job.
That's a good point, because you have those SOPs, you have the transparency of quality control, and hopefully those dispensary purchasers already trust you for that, kind of have that relationship as
Yeah, and that's how you can build a brand. I've watched it working with Friendo up in Sacramento, Steve Sequalia. He ran that, and he was pretty much 100% white label out of it, had no brand. And then once his flower got recognized by a bunch of white labelers, he then knew to take part of that and start his own brand to push it. And now his brand is doing very well.
And so just the simply diversifying yourself a little bit, not putting all your eggs in one basket,
Exactly.
A lot of advantage to that.
Yeah, because you can look at even the market where it's at now. There's so many cultivations shutting down. So that market share is coming available now. So for people with cultivation to grasp, if you're doing it right. So I know there's a lot of white label meetings in the background for MSOs down to mom and pop operations because people can't afford to run cultivations efficiently or inefficiently.
Well, that's what's happening now. I want to speak to one that this is a personal one for you, but just came across our desk in this story about, I will call him AYR, Air Wellness. AYR was occupying one of the largest grow spaces that was available here in the Phoenix metro area. This was the old Revlon makeup building, absolutely massive campus. They had one half of it at one time. I think you opened a number of brands, and
Yep.
that was one of their more optimal grows.
Yes.
In this report here, you're going to tell us how that closed down, but also it just came out today. They've just closed everything in Massachusetts and Nevada. So this is about 200 employees, over 200,000 square feet of grow space. They don't open small facilities. They go big.
Yeah.
So what's causing some of the largest producers across the country? We just had TerraSend to pull out on the retail and cultivation side up in Michigan. Now we hear this about AYR. How can you speak to that?
So what I've seen in my own experience is them trying to scale too fast for what they were. I mean, trying to run before they walked. You know, trying to get in. The facility we did take over was a massive one, and it wasn't, hey, turn on in phases. It was, hey, in 2 weeks you're turning on that room. 2 weeks you're turning on that room, and it don't matter if your operations are going great. But luckily, with the team we had in place there at the beginning, we were unstoppable realistically. And at the time, we had some of the best flower in the state. We were producing, I believe, in like high teens or low teens percentage of the market share in the state when we were fully operational.
So someone who's regarded as you are in the industry, known for running optimal, facilities and bringing these things around a lot of times from the red back into the black.
Yep.
Whether it's through their electricity, HVAC, water systems, lighting, everything that's happening with the variables in these rooms. Um, you know, I guess what's causing that? How can you influence that? What are we going to?
Well, I mean, that piggybacks with the last question of why air failed. It was they were coming in too hot and heavy. I mean, if you go look at that facility, you've been through it. It was phenomenal. It was a great build. It was a $28 million build out.
True that sometimes, regardless of the technology that's in there, obviously they're running faux lights, probably top of the line.
Yeah, I had every cool toy in the sandbox. And
it's not enough, right?
yeah, but luckily with my background from building management systems and stuff like that, that was my neck of the woods. So I could easily obtain that and do all that. But the average person can't. And so and most of these facilities are handed over to cultivators that then try to run like operators. And that's two different definitions of a title.
So speaking about getting too big too fast, another thing I had on our list for topics today to talk about was, is there any room in the market for boutique small batch cannabis, things we've seen before it was legal?
Yeah, definitely. I see more of the top shelf actually opening up for that, and more dispensaries letting people come in and kind of fight on the top shelf to consider yourself your top shelf. But then you have to understand what you're capturing, what's top shelf of even cannabis in the state. Even if you shoot big 10%, that's still not very much. And then if you have that many competitors, you're fighting in that 10%.
Agreed. And to speak to the price point, we don't know what people would actually pay for what I'm calling a boutique small batch cannabis. Yeah. Of course, I'm remembering years ago, let's say allegedly, I knew someone that grew White Widow years and years ago. It was the only thing he would let in that building to maintain, the quality of these genetics. He was famous for it. People were paying between $400 and $500 an ounce.
Yeah.
I think the market would still support that if somebody came to you with a tree.
Yeah.
And you had a 28-gram ounce that was basically a cola in a bag. I don't know would people pay $600 an ounce?
Yeah.
Would they? Well, because it really would be that fine.
Yeah, but then that goes with the trust of everything. Was it grown properly from beginning to end, cured? All of that. That's when all of that comes into play. And so when you actually do all those steps, you can charge that, because how many of these products out there do you get that full effect of when you smoke? Is it a real quick high and then you're down and then you're like, oh man? Or is it one that just feels funky because the process is in do that? Because as any consumer, when you taste something great and it really does affect you, you're like, holy moly. And the first thing you want to do is go tell your friend.
Okay, so this is kind of cool because this leads in. We just had a few news stories today that I just brought in to supplement our conversation, but they're actually fitting right in. So that was AYR, folks. Massive cutback there, massive layoffs. We wanted to have some positive reporting today. Some of these other stories are funny, but for the last couple of weeks, first with TerraSend, now with AYR, that's we haven't yet heard of anybody that big completely exiting a market. And now to hear it twice in 2 weeks, we want to kind of stay behind this. Are they just lacking the proper consulting? Somebody like Evan who's coming in and overseeing the operations, because throwing money at cannabis problems does not increase the quality of cannabis. But this leads to the next story. I want to talk about genetics as the foundation of everything, whether it's a seed, a clone, or just the lineage that you're purchasing. Let's talk about genotype versus phenotype, stability, selecting strains for different environments. How do they choose something that would work here in Arizona? And how are we getting value out of how we bring genetics into the state?
I mean, there's a couple different ways you could look at that because some people grow completely for yield. They don't care about terpene profile. They don't care about nothing. They have to hit some yield to push it out. And then there's some people that they chase terps, and then or you like talking about earlier, solventless people that go for hash strains. In multiple of my facilities in Arizona and across the nation, I grow for everything because I can optimize and do that. I mean, speaking of like at VARs, we grow now a very big chunk of our their uh flour goes to that solventless for that reason because we're optimized.
So this is funny that you keep leading into my next question, and I didn't even get to the story yet about genetics because this is a funny news story. But you just said it exactly right. We're chasing yields and we're losing some of the craft.
Yes.
And the market's forcing a lot of that on us. We're all feeling a lot of pressure, so there's no blame game there. We know that yields are king in commercial cannabis. But how are the smart growers, actually producing more cannabis without sacrificing quality? That would be its own.
So that's when you go into your efficiencies because some of these are the hardest to grow, like Z. Everybody wishes they could grow Z, and so a lot of people say they
I'd
do.
love to see it locally.
Yeah, but I have it. I'm growing it now currently. It's going to be in the market. It's a real Z. It's real finicky. There's some of these old sayings, the ugliest weeds, the best weed.
Let's go on this for one more minute until our commercial break. And let's talk about Kentucky real quick. This Kentucky facility was on their local news station, starting their grow with half-grown plants. They're running this news segment. Truck backs up, lifts the lift gate, and it's full of marijuana plants. And they're exclaiming, "Hey, our plants are here. Hey, let's get this on camera." As you know, that opens up a lot of questions about, well, saying the quiet part out loud. How do we get these clones, these seeds, these wonderful legacy genetics into our legal states? What are the laws concerning that? And we're just in our last minute here. We need to go to break, but when we come back, I wanted to kind of speak to that, but saying the quiet part out loud. So, folks, you're listening to the Verdant Exchange. I'm your host, Michael Cassini, and my guest today is Evan Burleson. And he is an absolute been in the game a long time for cannabis, and he's the founder of EMC Solutions. They work on everything from seed to sale and some of the largest cultivations across the country. We'll be right back with more on the Verdant Exchange. You're listening to Money Radio, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM.
Being in control of your money provides freedom. Learn how to make it, spend it, and invest it. We're Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stocks finishing higher, boosted by a batch of largely upbeat corporate earnings, also lifting investor sentiment, rising expectations of a Fed rate cut come September. Investors are also monitoring developments on the global trade front. The president followed through on threats to punish India for buying Russian oil and placed an additional 25% tariff on the country. Tech was the top performer. However, chip stocks were under pressure following disappointing results from Advanced Micro Devices. Apple stock rose 5%. The tech titan will be announcing a $100 billion U.S. manufacturing commitment at the White House today. The Dow winners, Apple, Amazon, and McDonald's. The Dow decliners, Amgen, United Health, and Caterpillar. The Dow rising 81 points, the Nasdaq higher by 253, S&P 500 up 46. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Sponsored by AxeCap Ventures. America, listen up. Gold prices are breaking records. With inflation raging and central banks hoarding, every American should own gold. And like President Trump said, whoever holds the gold makes the rules. AxeCap Ventures owns one of Nevada's largest undeveloped gold deposits and trades for pennies on the dollar. This could be your way to ride the gold boom. AxeCap trades under GARLF on the OTC. Visit axecapventures.ca today.
I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. I use common sense as an entrepreneur, financial literacy educator, and speaker to understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Grow your money insured with guarantees, tax-free and highly liquid with Your Personal Bank. Tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show, Tuesdays at noon or Saturdays at 1, or contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. The Your Personal Bank Show, Tuesdays at noon or Saturdays at 1.
Is thinning hair or a receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
To all my friends in Arizona, you don't need Gary Kaltbaum to tell you that your power costs are going up astronomically year after year. Last year, APS had a huge rate increase, which impacted so many families. This year, it's SRP's turn. There is a good chance that the federal solar tax credit, your hard-earned federal tax dollars that you will receive and that pays 30% of your solar system, may be going away at the end of December. But I'm here to tell you about the Solar Sandy solution. Don't regret not going solar now. The Solar Sandy solution strives to achieve zero power bills, or very close to zero. And for over 10 years, my friends, Solar Sandy has been helping Arizona families and getting them the federal and state tax credit that helps pay for it. When those bills go up, there's nobody helping you pay your increased power bills. So go to AskSolarSandy.com. That's AskSolarSandy.com and fill out her kilowatt worksheet today. That's AskSolarSandy.com.
At National Geographic Society, we believe in the power of wonder. We're supporting a new generation of explorers to ask questions, make breakthroughs, and bring the future closer. Wonder awaits. Will you join us? Visit natgeo.org/wonder.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're listening to the Verdant Exchange live on Money Radio. We're broadcasting from sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. I have from ECM Solutions, the founder, Evan Burleson, joining me for the entire show here in the studio today. And Evan, let's give you a chance, if we can just pause for a moment to introduce your company. Now that I got the name right, tell us what ECM stands for and kind of what you're after there.
So it's electrical, controls, and mechanical. That's pretty much what I highlight and go find the efficiencies in your facility. I've also find the efficiencies in your plants, but that's through balancing everything else. Looking at the constraints of everything, and that's what I can go in and build, give you an assessment of what you can improve, what you have to do with spending money, without spending money, and all that. And so I kind of just give everybody guidelines to get there and as fast as possible.
So let's stick on that for a minute before we go back to genetics and how we transport genetics. But let's talk about some of the new techniques. In the last few years, something that's become popular in education and in the grow teams is crop steering.
Oh, yeah.
People are getting used to talking about vegetative growth, generative growth, and kind of how to steer in and out of those cycles, both through feeding, lights, everything else. Tell me how advanced we're getting in these commercial ops with these things.
Oh, I mean, it's crazy because that's what, with all that, you go to with that, your VPD, vapor pressure deficit, and you're watching really the temperature of your plant as you're steering everything. And so it's with your lighting, what UMOL you're giving them, and then it's what your nutrient, your EC's at, and all these other variables. And that's really what you do to push it.
So let's talk about multi-tier setups. And actually, quick shout out to friends of the show. This episode is brought to you by two of these companies that we're speaking towards right now. For Substrate, Grodan, one of the largest in the world, has a huge cannabis presence and a lot of amazing products where they will teach you a lot of these feeding cycles and things to help influence, vegetative growth, different cycles you're trying to put your plants through to help stress them and ease back on, to increase yield, bunch of other different reasons. Now we're starting to stack, multi-tier setups, in smaller footprints. Are the bigger producers doing this too?
A lot of them were. A lot of them are falling back from it because it's a very hard thing to do. And so you can pull it off. I have a facility in Las Vegas I run that's 200 lighters, 50 lights each row. VARs in Tucson is the same exact buildup. It just matters then what you put into your whole system. As you get bigger, more tiers, more of that, you have to add more, more, and more. But that also means people, everything. So
I was going to say the variables change, so it's you'd be surprised how skeptical a lot of us are that have been in the industry a long time. When an investor comes to you and says, "Hey, I've only got 3,000 square feet. It's in the middle of Brooklyn, because we're trying to get New York going right now, but it's ceilings are 40 feet tall. We want to go up 3 tiers."
Yep.
And I'm saying I have no idea what's going on above the 6 feet that I'm standing above the ground in that building and all the radiation that gets trapped, the heat that gets trapped. So a lot of these investors never get the gains they're hoping for out of those types of systems.
yeah, it's
Very advanced.
yes, and you're looking at it because honestly, you have to walk every square foot of your facility and check it out. Someone that knows what they're doing, a scout, this or that.
And it's hard to do from a cherry picker.
Yes, or that, or this.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not.
Yeah. And and then it goes to that. How much are you really putting into your plants? If you're not putting that extra time to check on every single thing, all my facilities, even though I have substrate sensors, I'm still stabbing pots with another handheld that then verifies that reading.
Yeah, it's nice to have the computer, but there's a lot more going on. So now let's talk about bringing the genetics into the building. And we're going to clue people into some things that we don't often talk about there. But let's just talk about the shift to high yielding genetics, just as a priority over terpene profile cultivars.
Well, I mean, genetics, there's all like a whole different ways. There's people that have had them in every state that's run in, but pretty much you have so many breeders now that to small breeders from caregivers that then sell back and all this other stuff. So, I mean, that's where it goes to. If you're going for yield, you can find the yielders. If you're going for terps, you can run your sure bangers, your other stuff that doesn't, or your cookies, all this stuff that the candies, but that they don't have.
What about on let's talk about the cost side of the people that you have in the facility. Where are we at with hand trimming versus machine trimming?
So that just goes all in what your sales throughput should be. That's where I balance mine off of. I say, okay, do I sell 250 pounds out of my dispo? Okay, I need to hand trim that and whatever else I produce off of that. That's going to go for wholesale if the price point's there for me putting that much time into it. If not, there's plenty of trim machines out there that do a great job. That
I was just going to speak to the same thing. Our friends of the show, Green Bros out of Las Vegas, make an excellent option for that. I don't complain nearly as much about hand trim or wanting hand trim as I used to, machine trim, but I don't complain anymore.
Well, just like everything that's advancing, everything we're looking at when we're doing that, our water content, our water activity, what point it's at, the size, the density, what your feed rate into them is, your timing. There's a lot more look into it other than the old twisters that you just like, whoa, and just let them go,
Okay, so this Kentucky story that we just mentioned before the break, I want to get back into how the genetics enter the building and what you thought about this, because I thought this was hilarious that they reported this on just a local news channel. Like, hey, here we are opening our facility on day one. Check out our plants. And the plants are already 10, 12 weeks old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought you're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Even every state's different where you can get them from and how you can get them in.
Well, in this case,
I'm
it's
sure
just
that's not the way.
No. In this case, doesn't seem like there's anything to be afraid of because there's no checkup on this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like once you're a facility and your first harvest comes out, that's kind of when the computer starts tracking you. Hey, when did you plant those? Where's the weight going? How much did you grow? So on and so forth. But nobody asks where you got your clones or your seeds.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
No,
even
you have
standard,
manifest
is it?
since oh yeah. You have to track all of that. That has to be in everything.
But it's not really checked on, right? It's just paperwork.
Yeah. It's the state looks at everything because you have to have manifest where stuff came from unless you popped it from seed and then you have all that proof. But yes, you can just say I popped.
I was going to say it was more about just saying the
10,000
loud thing out
seeds.
loud. Exactly. Because let's go to Oklahoma here. I know Evan has some. We both have some experience in Oklahoma. But for those of you that don't know, Oklahoma is producing not only. Let me say this is not checked, but in my opinion, probably the most of any state. A lot of it is going to extracts, and a lot of it is going to exports, allegedly, all the way up to as far as New York City.
I hear, yeah, like you said, I don't know validly. You know, yeah, it goes everywhere out there. I mean, you used to have what 5,000 licenses to grow in Oklahoma. Like, what kind of sense does that make?
Now, the way they tried to scale that back was, I mean, because anyone that had $5,000 or an application fee could get both a license for retail, cultivation, or both. I believe the way they tried to limit that was to say you had to have retail attached to it because there was just too many grows running their own backdoor operation. And when you go to New York City, when you go to the bodegas, the first thing I noticed was, and I was with some other people that said, "Oh, this is Jeter, this is Stizzy, these are like counterfeit." And I said, "Well, not necessarily counterfeit.
Yeah.
In some cases, probably so, that you can package things up to look like cookies or
Yeah,
whatever."
exactly. There's tons of counterfeits out there, but I mean, if you look at all the headline news, and there's a lot of really big, won't say the names, you can look it up yourself, but there's some big names in New York that their stuff got pulled completely off the shelves for it. I'm in that market myself, and the hardest thing in that market is being honest and saying, like, we're growing what we need to, how we need to, meeting every requirement. We actually just passed for GMP. So we're running and gunning, and it's
I don't know if you can speak to this in New York, but there was a number of locations, some that were already either growing and or operational for retail. They misprinted the rules on the schools and the churches. Now, this is probably on the license holder that you probably should stay away from those places anyway, regardless if you know.
Well, it was all on the restrictions of what the license said. So
Yeah, they followed the rules,
Yeah.
and now they're being told to shut down or relocate.
yeah,
You know?
100%.
Thought that was kind of wild. Now, I mean, I could step back and just say, well, I would have probably done an even further buffer, but no, you think you're following the letter.
Yeah, and what if you found the greatest spot to have it, or maybe you already had a property or something that worked out
It's
in your
become
favor?
eligible.
Yeah, and then that, and it's like,
Oops, wait, we made a mistake. So New York's had a really tough time getting going. Let's go into that for one more minute. Let's talk about New York, then let's take a break and come back and we'll finish up. But yeah, why has New York had such a tough time rolling out licensed doors?
it's all the restrictions that everything OCM's really on it, which is great. You know, they come and check on everything your
I like
production.
that they have the power because some of the
Okay.
states have all the rules and nobody to check on it. New York has the
Yeah.
enforcement.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Las Vegas is that way. I mean, the way they do
Love
testing,
Vegas.
yeah, the way they do testing, how you have to have 5-pound batches. The
3 terps on every package.
yeah, well, and then the state inspector comes and takes the samples out.
Oh,
It's
love
not
to hear
making
it.
your own batch. You know, there's a lot of states that do that.
Deciding when we pull.
Yeah, or all the variables that
Let's
happen.
not even get into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I like, having that transparency. I like that this inspector comes in, because I really like when he opens my 5-gallon stainless bins and he's like, "This is amazing." I'm like, "All right, I'm doing it right."
So yeah, and it's just every state's different, but in Arizona, when we went rec, doors opened. Some of these states, we're talking years have passed, and the doors either have not opened or still being stalled. There's so many things in place, but Evan just spoke to something that's kind of our wild, wild west. We didn't necessarily have as many people in the jobs of enforcement like they do in other countries and other states, where the audits come daily, weekly, monthly. It's a regular thing. In Arizona, it's like, yeah, they'll come sometime this year, and when they do, we'll probably,
Yeah.
a little bit more lax out here in the Wild West, folks. All right, more with Evan Burleson, founder of ECM Solutions. When we come back, you're listening to the Verdant Exchange live on Money Radio, 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
With McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stocks finishing higher, boosted by a batch of largely upbeat corporate earnings, also lifting investor sentiment, rising expectations of a Fed rate cut come September. Investors are also monitoring developments on the global trade front. The president followed through on threats to punish India for buying Russian oil and placed an additional 25% tariff on the country. Tech was the top performer. However, chip stocks were under pressure following disappointing results from Advanced Micro Devices. Apple stock rose 5%. The tech titan will be announcing a $100 billion U.S. manufacturing commitment at the White House today. The Dow winners, Apple, Amazon, and McDonald's. The Dow decliners, Amgen, United Health, and Caterpillar. The Dow rising 81 points, the Nasdaq higher by 253, S&P 500 up 46. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Sponsored by AxeCap Ventures. America, listen up. Gold prices are breaking records. With inflation raging and central banks hoarding, every American should own gold. And like President Trump said, whoever holds the gold makes the rules. AxeCap Ventures owns one of Nevada's largest undeveloped gold deposits and trades for pennies on the dollar. This could be your way to ride the gold boom. AxeCap trades under GARLF on the OTC. Visit axecapventures.ca today.
I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. I use common sense as an entrepreneur, financial literacy educator, and speaker to understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Grow your money insured with guarantees, tax-free and highly liquid with Your Personal Bank. Tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show, Tuesdays at noon or Saturdays at 1, or contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. The Your Personal Bank Show, Tuesdays at noon or Saturdays at 1.
To all my friends in Arizona, you don't need Gary Kaltbaum to tell you that your power costs are going up astronomically year after year. Last year, APS had a huge rate increase, which impacted so many families. This year, it's SRP's turn. There is a good chance that the federal solar tax credit, your hard-earned federal tax dollars that you will receive and that pays 30% of your solar system, may be going away at the end of December. But I'm here to tell you about the Solar Sandy solution. Don't regret not going solar now. The Solar Sandy solution strives to achieve zero power bills, or very close to zero. And for over 10 years, my friend Solar Sandy has been helping Arizona families and getting them the federal and state tax credit that helps pay for it. When those bills go up, there's nobody helping you pay your increased power bills. So go to AskSolarSandy.com. That's AskSolarSandy.com and fill out her kilowatt worksheet today. That's AskSolarSandy.com.
Because of you, an unsheltered neighbor can have a warm meal, a shower, and clean clothes. Because of you, a struggling family will receive assistance to stay in their home. Because of you, a lost soul can regain hope. Because of you, the Salvation Army can give a hand up to those facing hardship in your local community. Donate now at salvationarmysouthwest.org. Above all, love. Sponsored by the Salvation Army Southwest Division.
We are back, folks. Welcome back to the Verdant Exchange. I'm sitting here chatting with our guest today, Evan Burleson, founder of ECM Solutions, and we're just enjoying talking on the break here. But I think we're going to make this a regular thing, because what he's telling me is he's not looking for commercial exposure here. He's just enjoying coming out of the garden and sharing these stories, whether it's about patients or just what's going on in the industry. Is that what you were just telling me?
Yes, sir.
There we go. It's a little more explanatory there on the break, but
Yeah.
basically what he's saying is, whether you're dealing with patients or on the medical side, different cannabinoids, we're talking a lot about minor cannabinoids lately and how we want to see different blends. Even in our flower genetics, we want to see CBD forward strains, CBN, CBG, THCV. There's people out there doing this in the gardens, whether it's for their own hobby or just on the side of their commercial success. So that's what Evan brings to the table. That's why he's going to be a friend of the show and going to be joining us, whether it's monthly or however we do that. So let me change the subject on you here, Evan, and see if you heard of this. Kratom's big in our industry. Kratom powder, whether it's powdered or, these natural forms that it's existing in. I heard a clip. This is from RFK Jr., And I just kind of want to speak to this administration and the tone of this clip, talking about not kratom, but it's much more powerful derivatives and concentrates that they're making and things they're making. James, if we have that clip, let's go and run the first minute of that and listen to that.
Good afternoon, Junior. You're HHS Secretary. You know, addiction typically affects about 10% of any population, but it becomes a national crisis when the addictive substance suddenly becomes available. And today we are facing a new addiction crisis because of the availability of synthetic kratom, which is also called gas station heroin.
The focus is not on kratom or the kratom plant. Our concern is with the synthetic concentrated byproduct. It goes by several names. We call it 7-OH as the collective term. 7-OH is not just like an opioid. It is an opioid, and yet it is sold in vape stores, in smoke shops, in convenience stores, and gas stations.
And they're marketed for children. They're gummy bears. They're bright colors. They're candy flavored.
It's legal, but it's an addiction that's ruining lives. So we are issuing a report from the FDA to educate doctors and parents alike. We want everyone to understand the risks. 7-OH is 13 times more potent than morphine. The FDA is going to be recommending that the DEA consider the synthetic concentrated byproduct of kratom called 7-OH.
Okay, so first of all, the reason that I know this stuff is dangerous is because of all the smoke shop owners that I deal with and the trade show. We just had Champs Trade Show up in Las Vegas, and so many booths are offering this. And I didn't understand when we went from the kratom options to these more concentrated, things that are stronger than morphine. But what the smoke shop owners are telling me is they know how addictive this stuff is. They don't even want to sell it, but have people coming in and are getting a lot of return business from people becoming addicted to this stuff. So the reason we're talking about this on our Cannabis News Hour is, for one thing, we get a lot of questions about hemp. A lot of people, whether they want to invest in cannabis or not, are trying to look at what the federal government's doing. Are they going to rewrite the hemp bill, the farm bill, and what regulations are they going to put on hemp, or what prohibitions are they going to put on different things like D8, D9, and other different cannabinoids? It doesn't seem like they're going after those things, and the reason why is because they just said we're not going after the kratom plant itself. And I just thought that was really beneficial to hear from the standpoint of this health secretary. Not that it necessarily means anything, but I'm of the belief that hemp it's being rolled out in the right kind of way. I'm sure there's some products that aren't great, or imports and cheap things coming in, but a lot of these companies from Austin, Texas to Bristol, Tennessee to, across the nation are starting to make these hemp edibles and hemp vapes, and they're doing them with the same, the same viewpoints that we have in the cannabis industry. They're tested, they're third-party certified, they're labs and things like that. They're taking it very seriously, and there's a lot of great companies out there. So I hope that the federal government leaves that intact and lets that kind of continue to grow on its own. But it was a positive thing to me there to see this report that they're really targeting this 7-OH, which is a kratom. They're likening it to like crack cocaine, that it's so much stronger than the original natural form, and it's so addictive. So yeah, Evan, I don't know if you know anything about kratom at all, but in cannabis, we come across it a lot. It's something that's sold in a lot of smoke shops. So just something interesting there. And what do you think about the federal government and hemp? Do you think they're really out to get hemp, or really care much?
I mean, always. I mean, if they weren't, why is it so hard, to get in there and get going? It's almost the same thing. There's things we could get out of hemp cannabis that would have the same effect as kratom. That's the same thing I look at.
That's a good point. Yeah, to say it that way. And a lot of people, I know kratom was used to get off of narcotics and things like that, but not in this super concentrated form.
Yep.
But I'm all for anything that's like that.
You could look at and break it down through the cannabinoids and then extract certain ones that would just knock them out the same effect that they're looking for there.
And that's what we're seeing with like THCP,
Yeah.
which they've proven in Italy it was naturally occurring in the plant, but it's such small amounts and trace amounts that once added into these gummies, boy, they slap really hard. The first time I took that one.
Yeah, and then if now with all the advancements in cannabis, can find something that will express that in the plant a lot better.
So I think that's a good thing, but I just wanted to speak to the safety of a lot of these hemp products because the people that are trying to prohibit them are acting like this is just synthetic. And when you use that word, you think we're not even dealing with the plant anymore, when really these are derivatives usually made from CBD oil from hemp plants.
Yeah, and I've dealt with some of the stuff, even the THC that crossover from CBD isolate over to THCA, and that's the same way I look at it. It's not the natural thing. It's not how it should be.
Right. All right. Well, let's wrap up this show, folks. We have had a great time today, and if you're interested in reaching out to ECM Solutions, I think Evan Burleson is absolutely covered up with work, but he would still love to hear from you. If you want to search him up on Instagram or anything else, you want to talk about what we're talking about on the show, or you have any questions for him and his expertise, says, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Evan?
It'd be ECM Solutions on Instagram, or that's pretty much it.
But let's be clear, he is not looking for a job.
Not at all. Yeah, I have enough partners and enough stuff going on right now that I'm very work heavy right now.
And it feels good. So in a way, as much as cannabis has contracted here in Arizona, across the country, some of these closings we talked about today, the people that have been in this for a while, we're still making big moves. Big things are still happening.
I mean, even right before we get off here, and it could kick off for our next segment, was I just cut about $8,000 a month off of a power bill consecutively for a small mom and pop operation.
Wow,
so
that's
how
beautiful.
how much would that really save someone?
Yeah, and again, if you want to reach out and just ask some questions, he's willing to help you with the best thing just in a quick moment. That's the kind of the cool thing about all of us here. We got purpose. We got purpose in what we do. Thank you for listening to the Verdant Exchange. I'm your host, Michael Cassini. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Evan.
You've been listening to the Verdant Exchange, hosted by Michael Cassini on Money Radio. If you're interested in becoming a partner of the show, visit CannabisCactus.com for more information on sponsorship opportunities. Have a guest or segment idea? We'd love to hear from you. Submit your suggestions at CannabisCactus.com. The Verdant Exchange is a weekly presentation of Money Radio, broadcasting live across Scottsdale and the greater Phoenix Valley area. Tune in next Wednesday at 1 p.m. and catch up on past episodes anytime at moneyradio.com, CannabisCactus.com, or your favorite podcast platform. The views and opinions expressed on the Verdant Exchange do not reflect those of Money Radio and do not constitute legal, medical, or financial advice. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.